What's good, people? It's Joshua from Joshua Chubb Photography, back again with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a long-term review of the Fujifilm X-T3. So the X-T3 has been my workhorse camera for the last 18 months. Kind of feels hard to believe that I've had it for that long, but it's true. Originally, I switched to Fujifilm back in 2018. And I was coming over from the Sony a7 III, and you might ask, well, what made you switch? I had something that came up financially that I needed to pay for, and so I sold off like the a7 III along with a few lenses in order to pay for it, but I still wanted to do photography, and so I wanted to try another camera. And I didn't want to go back to the Sony a6000 series, which is what I had originally upgraded to with the a7 III. So I said, you know what, let me look at some other brands, see what's out there, and I came across Fujifilm. Now, super duper long time ago, I actually had a Fujifilm point and shoot camera that I loved, and when it came time for me to actually start, doing photography professionally, I didn't really think about Fujifilm. Where I was from, no one really seemed to really know about Fujifilm. Every time I would get like a recommendation, it was always for a Canon or a Nikon, and then Sony a little bit. So anyway, I started off my Fujifilm career with the X-T3 back in 2018, and I didn't like that camera in particular. It was, great sensor and everything, but it was too small, so I ended up sending that back and getting an X-T2, and the X-T2 was a great camera. I came over to Fujifilm in February of 2018, and so I actually kept the X-T2 for 2 years. So the X-T3, I believe, had just been announced, or maybe just released, one of the two, in February of 2018, if I'm not mistaken. But for me at the time, the X-T2 just made more sense from a price standpoint, and I didn't really see a super, big reason to upgrade at that time. And so I kept the X-T2 for 2 years because I wanted to wait to see what the X-T4 would be like before I decided to jump to another camera. And so a couple years rolled around, X-T4 came out, or was announced, and when the X-T4 was announced, I jumped on the X-T3. So why did I do that? There were a few things I was looking for in the X-T4 for me to upgrade instead of getting like the X-T3. And so that was a better, bigger battery, which they did deliver. That was also IBIS, which they did deliver. And then the third thing that I was looking for was the same tilt screen, the 3-way tilt screen, which they did not deliver. They put a fully articulating screen in it. And also, so that was one reason why I didn't get it. But the next thing, it was the same sensor as the X-T3. So I think I probably could have forgiven them, for not doing the 3-way tilt screen if they maybe would have jumped to maybe like a 30 megapixel sensor or something like that. But since they did the same sensor, I said, it's not really that big of an upgrade for me. Because at the time, I wasn't really shooting videos, so I didn't really care about the fully articulating screen. The IBIS would have been nice to have, but it wasn't like a super huge deal for me at that moment. And of course you could say, well, the XH1 was around, but that still the same story, exact same sensor as the X-T2. So Adorama, I think all the camera stores were running a great deal on the X-T3, so I ended up picking it up for like $12.99 with the battery grip, and I've been happy with it really ever since. So as someone who's used this camera week in and week out, I think I might be a little bit qualified to give my thoughts on it. So first, starting off with like switching over like just from another camera manufacturer to Fujifilm, it was a little bit of a learning curve because obviously you get the dials, how you control your ISO, your shutter speed, and then you can control the aperture on the lens. And for me, that was kind of a refreshing little change. So I really did like that. And to this day, that's how I still actually change my exposure. I know some people, they do like to, you know, customize the front dial and the rear dial to be like your shutter speed and your ISO, and that's totally cool. I personally just like turning the knobs. But yeah, I mean, if you want more speed, if you're used to just using command dials to control your exposure, you can still definitely just program it to the front and the rear command dials. Let's see, what else do I like? You get like little sharp, well, it didn't come with the camera, but soft shutter release button. I like that they, you know, give you the ability to put that in. And you don't get that with some of the newer Fujifilm cameras, like their GFX 100 S and the 50S and the XS10. But I like, you know, just kind of adds a little bit of customability to your camera. I do like that you get, of course, like a D-pad, joystick to select your focus points is always pretty cool. Viewfinder is great, no complaints with that. And I do actually use these buttons as custom buttons. On a lot of the newer cameras, it seems like Fujifilm is going away from that. And I'm not a fan of the, you know, swipe this way to do a custom function, swipe that way to do a custom function. I'd rather have buttons, so I definitely appreciate that on this camera. The 3-way tilt screen though, for me, like doing photography is a game changer. I was actually doing this shoot alongside a friend who shoots Sony, and I was, you know, shooting with the screen out to the side, and he was like, after the shoot, he was like, man, he was like, is your camera broke? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, your screen tilts out to the side, like when you're holding it vertical. And I said, no, it's just like a 3-way tilt screen. So I love this feature so much. I wish they would have put that on the X100V. Oh my gosh, that would be such a dream. Because, I mean, you gotta think about the world that we live in. Social media, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, a lot of the content that we're consuming is in a vertical orientation. So having this tilt screen here without having to, you know, get down low and hurt my neck or, you know, lay down on the ground, to me, it's a game changer. I would say really the only problems that I've had with this camera, something that I've not really seen consistently but intermittently, it's not really even with the camera, it's with the battery grip. So for sometimes when I have the battery grip attached, the battery grip, it doesn't register like to the camera. So obviously on the battery grip you still get like a joystick and you still get some custom function buttons, like you get like the dial and everything. And so sometimes I have to unplug the battery grip and replug it back in order for it to work. And that's happened, I would say, a very small percentage out of the times that I've actually used the battery grip. Another thing that I do like about the X-T3 over like the X-T2 and X-H1, some of those older cameras, is that you don't need the battery grip to maximize the performance of the camera. So like with the X-T2, in order to use like boost mode, you had to use like the battery grip. If you wanted a headphone jack, the headphone jack was like in the battery grip. So really it's a independent camera that you can use completely separate of the battery grip and still get great performance. Definitely love that. And I mean, yeah, I mean the sensor has held up, I mean, really good over time. Obviously Fuji announced that, hey, they're coming out with a 40 megapixel stacked backside illuminated transforming, you know, sensor and all this stuff. But I mean, this sensor to me is really good. One thing that I wish that Fujifilm might do with this camera in the Kaizen update is to maybe give us classic negative. I do like having that on some of the newer cameras, but we don't have it here. But it still has classic chrome, which is my all-time favorite one. Film simulation. Also, you can't do some of the recipes because it doesn't allow you to adjust. There's like 2 different settings. I think it's like maybe like chrome effects blue or something like that. There's like 2 settings that you can't use the custom film simulations in. But I mean, other than that, you know, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I got all the dials and buttons that I need. Focus selector switch. Love having that. Nothing else I can really say about this camera that's negative. And I mean, I think I've said all the positives. I mean, you get a ton of customization with the function buttons. I tried to switch over. So, okay, pause in the video. So, obviously the XH2 is coming out, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to, you know, maybe upgrade. I'll probably still keep the X-T3, but in my time with the X-T3, I've been thinking about switching back to full frame. I last year got the Nikon Z6, the Mark I version, and personally I didn't really like the ergonomics of the camera, and when it came to like customizing buttons, it was very limiting of what you could actually customize. Like, there was literally, to me, in my opinion and how I shoot, there was no useful customization feature like for the buttons. It was like stuff that I would never use for. So anyway, so I loved like the different options that they give you to be able to customize in the camera is very good. So yeah, I'm in the video here. Oh, I didn't even say at the beginning of the video, right now I'm actually filming on the Canon EOS R6 with the 35mm 1.8. Like I said, I've been thinking about switching, and I'm not going to, you know, give my thoughts yet on, you know, the R6 versus the X-T3. I mean, they really are, you know, kind of 2 different classes of camera, but I will do a, you know, like a comparison between them because it's what I'm looking at, and it might be something that, hey, maybe you're looking at. So if that's of any interest to you, think about hitting maybe the subscribe button, or drop a comment if there's anything that you might specifically want to know with differences between these cameras. Though the X-T4 is a newer camera and might be a better comparison, the X-T3 is 90% of what the X-T4 is. I mean, you just don't have the IBIS and the fully articulating screen. So I'm gonna put up some just a few photos that I've taken with the X-T3. So hope y'all enjoy those, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.